Hello everyone, and welcome to Galaxy 89 Cars. Today, thanks to a very generous owner, I'm bringing you an in-depth tour of a 2017 Aston Martin GT8. Not to be confused by their GT12 model, the GT8 was also inspired by their desire to build a road car that reflects their long-term racing heritage, that dates back further than their 1959 outright win at Le Mans. Aston decided to construct two limited edition models based on their 2016 race cars. The GT8 was based on the GT Vantage race car, while the GT12, the GT3 Vantage. The main difference between these models can be seen in their names, where the number refers to the amount of pistons each has. It is based on the foundations of a standard Vantage, but has been lightened, still weighing 1,510 kilos however, and had its power increased. Its 4.7-litre V8 produces 440 brake horsepower and 361 pounds-feet of torque, up 60 horsepower and 59 pounds-feet on the standard V8 Vantage. This increased power leads to a 0 to 62 mph or 100 km/h time of 4.6 seconds and a top speed of 180 mph. At the rear, we find the titanium exhaust system, which sounds absolutely incredible. Here, the 19-inch front and rear, 7-spoke lightweight magnesium wheels have been chosen. Passive dampers are fitted and are said to provide a more predictable drive than those on the standard Vantage. Further in, we can see the ventilated Brembo sports brake. Now we've learned a little more about the car, let's start our in-depth tour from front to back. The grille has the iconic Aston gape that slims on either side and allows for cooling to the engine. The aero pack, which ticks the extra removable carbon front splitters and rear wing, has been ticked here. On each end, the carbon end planes create a final boundary at the bottom intake grille and extend out quite far. The additional splitter attachments also jut out quite prominently. Above and on either side are the ovular bi-xenon headlights with LED day running lights. There are stylistic lines that run up the bonnet on either side, where two vents lie at the top. These create a more aggressive aesthetic and additional cooling for the V8 that lies underneath. The sides are adorned with more lines, carried over from the standard Vantage. However, there are new wider side skirts and front and rear arches. At the bottom, the front and back communicate through this quite large channel between the front wheel arches and side skirts. The beginnings of the gloss carbon side skirts run along the side of the car until they flow into the wider rear wheel arches. Above these are the redesigned wing mirrors that have a smaller surface area than the standard car. As we run along the side of the car, the next thing we find are the integrated door handles. Behind and on the left here is the fuel filler cap for the 80-litre fuel tank. At the very rear, a new large carbon wing sits on the V12 Vantage S ducktail and is said to generate appreciable downforce even at everyday speeds. Just over the edge of the ducktail is a brake light, with the Aston and GT8 insignia and the beautifully designed carbon weave below. On either side are the clear brake, reverse and indicators. Another gloss carbon panel sits below this with an extensive carbon lip above the rear diffuser that also juts out profoundly. Now we've completed our exterior in-depth look, let's take a look at the interior. The key displayed here isn't the main key to the car, but offers controls for lock, unlock, lights and to open the boot. It is otherwise known as the Emotional Control Unit, or ECU for short. Simply unlock using the key, then depress the integrated handle at the rear, which causes it to pop out, grasp and pull out. The swan doors here open up at a slight angle of 12 degrees. The interior is finished in Alcantara and leather with red contrast stitching and matte carbon. Once again, there's no interior POV tour, so I'll start my interior in-depth insight with the doors. The door is constructed and finished mainly in matte carbon, here reflecting the weight-saving and more hardcore ambitions for this model. There is a speaker at the top with the black leather upholstered armrest below, here with red contrast stitching. The electric window and exterior mirror controls are also found here. Below is the release catch and a small leather toggle to pull the door in. There is no real storage capacity in these doors, but a slight carbon lip has been fashioned at the bottom. The exaggerated side skirts obviously add extra width to the sill area, but ingress and egress wasn't particularly challenging. The sills here are topped with a small commemorative plaque. Slightly further in is the leather upholstered handbrake, with the exterior light controls, electric seat adjustment and first air vent in front. Most of the interior is upholstered in Alcantara for weight saving and a sporting aesthetic. This includes the wheel. Moving in, the multifunctional wheel offers controls of voice and calls on the left and cruise control on the right. The feel it provides feels the desired outcome in my opinion, and here I give you a driver's eye view. There are 4 main dials in the driver's instrument cluster: the fuel gauge, analog speedo with digital readout, rev counter with basic digital trip, and engine temperature. To start the car, simply slide the key fob or ECU into the ignition in the central column and depress. The screen then pops up and the dials run through their start sequence. The screen can be operated using the central scroll wheel with central button or the direct select option menus found on either side. Let's run through all the individual menu screens. First is the reversing camera, then vehicle status with tyre and power information. Navigation is next, with the option to navigate straight to the location, local points of interest, and the map. Audio comes next, where the DAB digital radio and auxiliary inputs can be controlled. Then phone with Bluetooth connectivity options and contacts. And finally, general system settings. The next thing down on the matte carbon central column are 2 adjustable air vents. On the right, the direct menu buttons are for phone, nav and back, with the scroll wheel central and source, menu and radio to the left. Below are ventilation and climate controls with the volume wheel centrally. There are 3 buttons below: Sport, which tightens suspension and driving response, Hazard lights and ESC. The small button here is to open the boot, with the right hand side button for the internal lock. The GT8 was offered with the choice of 2 transmission options, this 6-speed manual or a 7-speed sport shift paddle operated automated manual. Behind the gear stick is a small compartment with the 12-volt socket inside and external beams behind. On the central armrest there's a small storage compartment with another power outlet and auxiliary inputs. Behind the seats there is a seemingly large parcel shelf area that is intersected by struts on either side and speakers. I found the electrically adjustable Alcantara upholstered bucket seats to offer both comfort and support, but unfortunately I couldn't test them while moving. Their lightweight carbon fibre construction can be seen protruding from the rear. The seats can be moved in 2 ways: the memory and adjustment buttons on the central column that offer forward, back and tilt, alternatively, the dash-mounted quick movement buttons can be utilised. As we approach the end of the in-depth tour, it's time to remove the ECU and take a quick look at the remaining storage capacity. The passenger side glove compartment is quite slight and doesn't seem to offer that much storage capacity, so it's lucky there's quite a bit behind the seats. Outside, however, the rear boot offers 300 litres of storage space, which is definitely enough to bring home the weekly food shop. To the left-hand side, a towing eye is fixed next to a puncture repair kit. Let's move back in to see the final few features of the car. Both passenger and driver get a slight sun visor with vanity mirror. Centrally, there are quite large interior lights with white LEDs, and the glorious and inescapable view of the rear wing in the rearview mirror. So that concludes my tour of this Aston Martin GT8. Once again, I'd like to say a huge thanks to the owner for giving me the opportunity. Please subscribe for the latest content, and until next time, cheers.